So, goat. What is a goat? Okay, all right, good, good. They got it. Okay, it was actually kind of a new phrase for me, but it's been around for a while, and so I kind of wondered, okay, what would be some of the things that I think would be great? Okay, you remember? Okay, Oprah. Okay, you get a car. You get a car. It would have been great to be in that audience. That would have been great. Um, uh, this may date me a little bit, but I remember Jordan in the All-Star game. Yeah, and then the Olympics too. I mean, we mopped the floor with those guys. That would have been great. All right. Okay, me getting a little nerdy, sitting in the captain's chair on the Enterprise. Yeah, yeah. Original, of course. Yeah, yeah. Kirk is my captain. All right. But let's beam back to who we really are. All right. As you know, I'm a chaplain, and I try my best. I really do. I mean, I know Jesus. I've baptized people. I've shared Jesus with people. I've seen lives dramatically changed by God. But does that make me the greatest chaplain that there ever was? I mean, what would make a great chaplain? Um, and you know, let's say that this whole idea that I'm talking about being great, let's say it's not about me at all. Let's say it's about you. Um, what would your life look like if you were the greatest? Hold it, hold it. I'll give you a shot in a little bit. Um, what if you were an incredible Christian? What if you were the best follower of Jesus? What if that was you? What if you were the goat of Christians? What if you were? Huh? Um, what would you have to do for God to think of you as his greatest follower? Hold it, hold it, just hold it, just hold it. This is introspection. Boy, what would your interactions with people be like if you were God's greatest? What would you have to do to be the very best, the greatest in the kingdom of God? Now, look, last week we saw a football game, didn't we? Okay, some of us did. Okay, all right, and we watched two of the, I guess, greatest football teams this year compete against one another. Okay, and we watched their leadership team pursue being the greatest and leading their team to victory. We watched two teams, and um, we watched the 49ers lose. That's who I was cheering for. But I can't discount the fact that that team was in the Super Bowl. It was still one of the greatest teams. So what would you be like if you were the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? Yeah, I'm just going to let that sit. Come up with some answers. What would it be like? Because my next question is are you pursuing that? Are you chasing after that? I mean, are you close like the 49ers? Are you close? Is being the greatest in heaven what you are all about? I mean, look, I believe heaven is real. Okay, and I believe that it's eternal. And pretty much everything else is kind of temporary, right? My job is temporary. My health is actually temporary. I've had a close look at that. There are relationships in my life that are temporary. Where I live, I was pretty nomadic growing up. Where I live is temporary. And for that matter, even the tensions that we feel when there's a war going on, and I've seen a few. I've been in the service. Those are temporary. The Cold War is no more. It's all temporary, but heaven is eternal. So what if we pursue being the best at the eternal? The greatest, the GOAT. Jesus' followers asked him, what would it take to get an A+ at being his followers? They wanted to know, what would it take to be the best? And in Matthew 18:1, we find that at the time, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? This is where you participate. What's the answer to the question? Okay. What's the answer? God. Okay. All right. So I'm going to get a little geeky. Okay, just bear with me. I do have this vein running through me. Okay. The Bible was not written in English. Do you know that? Okay, it was written in Hebrew. It was also written in Greek. Because this is the New Testament, it was probably written in ancient Greek. Right? And the Greek word for greatest is meson. Can we say that? Meson. Okay, say it one more time. Meson. That's Greek for greatest. Okay? And it comes from the nominative adjective singular form. Okay, what that means is that it describes, but it only describes a single thing. Okay? The greatest makes sense. Okay? It's a single thing, and it's the best. Right? It comes from the word magus. Okay? And we have a word that's similar to that, don't we? Magna or maximum. We have words that derivative from that. All right? So if we're going to use this English word mega, okay, like big, huge, okay, what would it take to be mega in the kingdom of heaven? That's what the disciples are asking. Okay? And this is Jesus' answer to the question. Okay? He called a little child and put them in the midst of them. Good job. Come on. It won't hurt, I promise. Can you make the big step? All right, good job. Little children. Sermon illustrations. Look at that. Okay, but let me go and set some parameters here. We have a certain aspect of children. Okay, children are valuable. Is that correct? Will we say that? If the house is burning down, you save the child before the adult. Is that safe to say? Okay, that's general consensus, okay? However, if we would go and teleport into the New Testament, that is not the case. Okay, children are less than. Okay, do these guys pay taxes? No, but we'll see. Do they produce anything? Okay, we're not talking about diapers here. Okay? I mean, they're kids. They're kids, all right? You are. Yeah. Okay? Now, for Scripture, generally the age 11 and under is a child. So we have one that doesn't fit, one that does, okay? But if we look at that, at 12, they can start doing jobs. So in the Old Testament time, they would actually be put to work. Okay, but prior to that, they just take up space, and you have to feed them and clean up after them. Okay, so in this time, children were of low value. Okay, they were. And of the two children, the greatest value would be the male because he can own stuff and she can't. So during that time period, there was that disconnect. Okay, and are children smart? Good persuasion, girl. Good job. Thanks for helping them out. Okay? But, so, just to go and put this to practical application, I'm going to start with ladies first. Okay? I'm going to go and ask her a question that she probably will not know the answer to. Okay? All right? Just so you know, so you don't panic. Okay? You probably won't know this. Now, do you know that I used to be an algebra teacher? Yeah. Okay. So, now, I need you to pay attention, okay? Because I'm going to ask you the same question. So make sure you look at me, okay? All right. So, what is the multiplicative inverse of 25%?
You're showing him the answer behind your back.
I am?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Carter, what's the answer to the question? What's the answer to the question?
Wait, it's
Yep.
It's free.
Try again. Yeah, there you go. Good job. Good job. Good job. Good job. Good job. Okay. Now, how did you know he was seeing the answer?
Well, because he was looking at your.
Oh, okay. All right. And how did you know that it was 4?
Because you were holding 4 fingers.
Right. Now, pay attention to this because I need to refer back to this later, okay? So, again, back in the Old Testament, if there was an issue of poverty within the family, the adult male would eat and the rest would get whatever's left over because he was the productive member of the household, and everybody else, some even died of starvation. So when we go and watch Jesus call a child up, we are talking a major cultural shift is happening. Like, this is the equivalent of shock and awe to the people around them. This wasn't just a casual conversation where we say, oh, look, he's bringing a child. It's just like, he's doing what? This is shock and awe to the people that he's talking about. Okay? So in the continuing passage, we find this. Truly I say unto you, unless you turn and become like a child, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Whosoever humbles himself like a child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Think of how Jesus just flipped the tables upside down. Yeah, don't do this one. This one's glass. So we started this message with the goat, okay? And goat means? Yeah. So now, Jesus had been asked, how do I become the goat? And the answer is in order to be the goat into heaven, you have to become like a child. But not only that, becoming like a child is entry into heaven. It's your ticket in. Wait, what? So let's review. To be the goat in heaven, to be mega in heaven, and the entry into heaven requires the humility of a child. Now, what you saw with this little interaction that I did with these guys is that Carter did not know the answer, but he had to trust me for the answer. That was the child. And the child here knew there was an answer being given and also wanted the answer too. There was a child response here. Now, you guys can stay up here if you want, but I'm done if you want to get down. You're good?
Was this punishment
No.
making you help me with my homework?
No. But now that you mention it, now we're even. So what I'm going to do is there's enough of us here to actually break apart and have some conversations about this. So what I am is I'm going to facilitate some conversation. So those of you that are online, we're going to step out because we're going to do some stuff, and I won't be up here. So thank you and blessings to you. But for us here, okay, so here's some of the ideas that I came up with. Okay, and you actually saw it somewhat demonstrated up here. Okay, sometimes as a kid you don't know much. Okay, you don't have all the facts, and reality is you still don't have all the facts as an adult. It's the truth of the matter. You don't have much, but, isn't it strange? I remember as a kid, I didn't need much either. I had a couple Hot Wheels, and I was thrilled. And how you learn by either copying what you see, okay? That's how most children learn bad words, by the way. Not that I'm saying, but that's how it's learned, okay? Or they're being directed, or shown how to do this. This is how you do this. They trust in the care, and I know some of you talked about that. They even trust the answers you make up. Yeah, they trust them. Yeah. And they are completely dependent. Okay? When I moved from country to small town, the rule was come home when the streetlights came on. Okay? I came home when the streetlights came on because I was hungry. And I knew there was food being made for me at the house. I didn't make my food. They made it for me. So I was dependent upon them for a while. But I'm going to go and I'm going to venture to say that there is one other quality that kids have. But before I talk about that one, I got an illustration that'll illustrate all these points. And that's me, myself. Okay? I remember kindergarten. Okay? Now, for me, kindergarten, I was a half-day kindergartner. Okay? I went on the PM side, so it was lunch until about 3-something. Okay? And I was of the generation where halfway through kindergarten, you took a nap. And we had these rugs, literally rugs. And I would lay on the rug on the floor and take a nap. That's how old I am. Okay? But I remember this moment. And it was I would actually venture to say that it was a traumatic moment for me. The teacher, during this nap time, called me to the desk and asked me some questions. The questions were similar to, when do we go to library? What day do we go to library? What day do we go to music class? And if you remember, every day you had kind of a specific special that you went to. My profound child answer was, I don't know. And my secondary profound answer was, when you tell us to. Now, I loved library. There was a particular book called Drummer Hoff Fires It Off. It was about a cannon. And I read that book so much that I literally wore it out in the library. I took it out so much that all the stamps in the back of the library book were mine. That was mine. And there was this one section of the library where they didn't have enough books, so it was empty shelves. So I'd actually scooch into the shelf and I'd read the book while I was in the library. And then when I was done, I'd check it out and take it home. and then bring it back and then still read it in the library. So I wore that puppy out. So much so that I actually bought another copy, and I've got it sitting on my bookshelf at home. Okay? But, when I went to library class, did I need anything? No. When I went to music, did I need anything? No, they had all the clanging instruments and songbooks already there. Okay? There was nothing that I needed to bring with me, so I didn't have to prepare to go to these special events. Okay, when I went to art class, all the art supplies was in art class. I didn't need to prep, nothing. I just, okay, it's time to go. Okay, let's go. And the thing is because I didn't know the days of the week and I didn't know when we were going, every single time, this is so exciting. I get to go here. And it was always now, and it was always present, and it was always exciting. I always felt so lucky. Every time I felt, this is great. I love going here. Then I got traumatized that there's actually days of the week, and I had to go home, and my parents had to drill me on the days of the week, and I had to remember the days of the week. And now I was confounded by time and constricted. And now I had to go, and I knew what was happening tomorrow instead of every day being a great joy and adventure. So it was different for me. It was one of those moments in time that rocked my world, really. I learned the days of the week. I'm hoping they don't have the days of the week in heaven. I hope every day is just a great day. God tells us where to go. It's art class. Okay, great. That's what I'm hoping heaven's like. All right? But there is one other thing, and I've alluded to it already, is that as a kid, I felt lucky. I always felt lucky. It's like I had this opportunity to do something. And luck is a vague thing. It's always been kind of a vague thing, like it's hit or miss kind of thing. Or it's probability for the gamblers in the house. Okay? But in 2003, Dr. Richard Wiseman published a book that explored luck, but he explored it through a psychological lens. Okay? He was interested in studying why some people consistently are lucky, while others struggle with bad luck for their whole lives. His theory was our thoughts and our behaviors determine our fortune, and he wanted to try to prove that right or wrong. So what he did is he decided to go and test it. And he put out magazine ads, he put out newspaper ads, asking for people who feel very lucky or people who feel very unlucky to help participate in these studies, okay? He ended up getting a group of people of 400. 200 that felt very lucky, 200 that felt very unlucky. And so what he did is he brought them into a room and gave them a test. And he gave them all each a newspaper, okay? So go ahead and get your newspaper ready, okay? What he did is the doc and his research team conducted the experiment, and he asked them to count the number of photographs in the paper. Okay? That's what he asked them to do. Now, the unlucky group averaged 2 minutes to complete the exercise. Okay? The lucky group averaged mere seconds. Why? You're in small groups. Talk it out. Why do you think that is? Look at each other. Why? The unlucky group took an average of 2 minutes to count. In the lucky group, fractions of seconds to count all of them. Okay, so the piece of information that you're missing is this. On page 2 of the newspaper, there was an ad that said, "Stop counting. There are 43 photographs in this newspaper," in big font. But let that settle in. Now, to add to this story, halfway through the newspaper, there was another message. In big bold print, it said, "Stop reading. Tell the experimenter that you have seen this ad and you win $250. The self-identified lucky people had seen the writing, stopped, and responded accordingly to the timer, or they read a little bit farther and they collected the money. The self-identified unlucky people, on the other hand, had the same paper and taken far longer to count. These findings were so consistent that they couldn't deny the research. The lucky people came across a chance opportunities, while the unlucky people appeared to miss the chance opportunities. Both groups had equal access, but the lucky group saw what the unlucky group tended to miss. The unlucky group didn't trust the information. So, as I read farther, they talked about, basically creating your own luck. And I think I've got it. Maybe I do. Yeah, I do. Dr. Wiseman's study, the lucky people seemed to understand this. They noted that they often took alternate routes to and from work so that they could meet new people and see new things. They weren't in the grind. They talked about unique strategies for talking to different people when they were at gatherings. They bounced back from seemingly negative encounters and maintained a positive outlook for their future. And the luckiest people have engineered an enormous amount of luck. They expose themselves to more luck than the average human being. And when I look back as a child, I was lucky all the time. Like, I'm going to go over to my friend Bob's house, and I'm going to ask him if he wants to ride bike with me today. I kid you not, my father said, I think I just saw them leave, and they may be going to their grandmother's. They're probably not home. And you know what I said as a kid? Well, I'm going to go check anyway. Bob was there. They just ran to the store and back. I was lucky. Did you feel that? I could have just said, oh, okay, well, I guess he's not home, and stayed home. I'm going to do it anyway. I welcome the opportunity. So, he concluded that if you want to remove anti-luck includes actions, behaviors, and people that shrink your ability to receive luck. Pessimism and blinders are two of the common sources of anti-luck. People who tell you to be realistic, they criticize what others do negatively, and they create a negative environment is another common source of anti-luck. But those that are pro-luck includes actions, behaviors, and people that expand your ability to receive luck. It's getting out, meeting new people, sharing your thoughts and ideas publicly. They're all common sources of pro-luck. They encourage you to think bigger, improve your environment. These ways are common ways of increasing your luck. As a kid, I felt lucky every day. I remember those days. And then life happened and I became an adult. Bleh. Things ain't so lucky so much. So, we've heard this passage many times in our history, and it's Romans 10:9. If we confess with our mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. We've heard that before, right? That's not new news? Okay, good. And if humility of a child is our entry into heaven, and we know that salvation is the requirement for heaven, then we have to trust Jesus to forgive us our sins. We also have to trust Jesus with our own personal attitudes. We have to trust him with those. We have to trust Jesus with our behaviors. He may tell us to change something, and we have to say yes, kind of like a kid. I'm included in this, by the way. I really am. My attitudes about church, and not just my church, but other people's churches too. I have to keep my attitude in check. I have to keep my actions in check. You know, what I say, what I don't say. I have to keep my behaviors in check. So what would it take for Capital Vineyard to become like a child again? Okay? What would it take? I mean, to be not an adult that has been hurt by church leadership and pastors. To not act like an adult that has scars that you don't want people to touch. What would it take for us to be not a church that has been beat up, not a church that has been burnt out, not a church that does not fit in? Does that sound familiar? What if, instead of us having a message of hope, what if we were the message of hope? We ourselves became the child once again. What if we accentuated the positive, eliminated the negative, latched on to the affirmative, and didn't mess around with the in-between? What if that was us? What if that was us? What if we confessed? What if we confessed that we don't know much? What if we did? Well, we don't know. We don't know. God does. Well, we don't. What if we confess that we don't have much? What if we said we don't have much, but God does? What if we confess that we want to learn and that we want to apply what we're learning? What if we want to copy what Jesus does? What if we really want to be following Jesus and be the goat in heaven? What if we're the goat? What if we want to trust that God does care for us? What if we confess that we want to depend on God?